What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 4 of Trainer Talks with Trainer Dave. I'm here joined by my fourth guest on the podcast, Justus Kauffman. Justus, thank you for being here today.
Hey man, super excited to be here. I just want to give you big props before we start. Like what you're doing with this podcast is awesome, and bringing people in our industry together to kind of just bounce ideas back and forth off each other. It's super cool. So you're trailblazing that as far as people that I've seen in our community. So thank you so much for that, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, appreciate you. When I started off this podcast, I definitely had you in mind as a guest, just because obviously episode 1 was Anna Kate, personal trainer. Episode 2 was John Gallup, gym owner. Episode 3, we started to change it to a different direction, and we had Clayton Durr, who's a physical therapist. Now, episode 4, we got you, and you're a chiropractor. So, obviously, kind of like I told Clayton, you know, you're not necessarily a trainer, but what you do is very closely knitted to our profession. So, super excited to hear your input podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to bring it. And those first 3 people, I know all of them, and they're all absolutely wonderful people. So, for me to even be a part of that lineup is just super cool, and it's kind of humbling for me. So,
absolutely,
I'm excited to kind of chat about some things and see what we get into.
Yeah, very elite lineup of people. First off, could you kind of just give us a background about yourself?
Yeah, man. So I am Wichita born and raised, always been here. I grew up, I was an athlete myself. I was a big basketball player. I just wasn't that good at it, but I had the work ethic, and I was pushing myself really hard as far as that goes. I grew up in a family without any like formal education for the most part, and it was kind of pressed on me like, hey, like my parents, our son is going to be the guy that gets the college degree in the family, right? And so there was always that expectation, and I knew like ultimately I was quote unquote smart, right? And so that I could pursue that. And I always had that vision in mind. Wichita State grad, ultimately with an exercise science degree. While I was going through exercise science, I met my now wife, who was in physical therapy school. She kind of lit the fire for me even more of like, oh man, you can like keep climbing this pyramid. So ultimately I took that degree, rolled it into chiropractic school up in Kansas City. And I have been a chiropractor here back in town for about 2.5 years now.
Obviously, yeah, like you said, you're a chiropractor, but you're also the owner of Auxoma. Kind of tell us a little bit about Auxoma.
Yes, sir. So we're 10 months in Auxoma, just with my background being exercise science from Wichita State. And then I worked in a physical therapy clinic as a tech or like office aide basically for about 2.5 years while I was going through my undergrad studies. And so that's where a lot of my like early mentorship came, was through people in the physical therapy space. And I absolutely loved it. But I think a lot of your listeners are probably exercise science students. The thing is, like, somebody would always come in and be like, well, what do you guys want to do when you're done with this? And it was like, some people were going to ride the wave with their exercise science degree and turn that into whatever it became. And then other people were like, I want to be a physical therapist. I want to be a physical therapist. And there was just so much of that. And I was like, man, I don't want to follow the sheep.
Yeah.
Not to mention that my wife was also pursuing that. And I was like, okay,
yeah.
I've always saw a little twist and kind of done things differently. I was actually put on to going and shadowing a chiropractor out in Oklahoma, and he worked out of a gym, and I absolutely just fell in love with that. So having never been to a chiropractor myself, I was like, I'm going to chiropractic school. A friend of mine at the time was just starting up with school a year ahead of me. And so I just made that leap, having not really understanding the industry that I was getting into, but just that one shadowing experience. And I was like, man, that I absolutely love. So Auxoma, I'm in my 10th month. It is basically just me trying to blend in all of those 3 elements into people's care.
I guess ultimately, why did you want to become a chiropractor? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but is there anything in particular that made you want to become a chiropractor?
Not necessarily. So what I always said was like, I'm just going where the wind blows me, which like I now understand to be like odds work at play in my life and just pushing me in certain directions. So I was playing basketball in my junior college years. My trainer was a massage therapist at the physical therapy clinic. She was like, you should come work here. So she got me my early opportunity there. Through mentorship there, it just felt like I was just, man, I'm getting pushed in this direction. And then ultimately that just led me to chiropractic school. I kept riding the wave. And then now looking back, it's like this was all for a purpose and meant to be, and like, and got me in the position where I am today.
That's awesome. What certifications do you currently hold? You got a wall. I been to your clinic. It's a wall full of certifications.
There are people with more, but the main ones: selective functional movement assessment, SFMA, FMS, functional movement screen, functional range conditioning movement specialist, Titleist Performance Institute. So I'm certified to work with golfers. And then as a chiropractor, we don't necessarily have to be certified in dry needling, but I have coursework with dry needling amongst some other things as well.
We'll start talking about Auxoma a little bit more. Like, ultimately, why did you decide to open up Auxoma?
I've been an entrepreneur since I was almost out of diapers. Like the first time I ever was like, my entrepreneur entrepreneurial journey started when I was in Dillon's when I was a kid, probably like second grade. And I looked and I was like, okay, you can buy 2 Hershey's for $1.
Nice.
And I was like, I can take those Hershey's to school.
Yeah.
And make $4 off of them. So I started doing that. And then so the entrepreneurial spirit was always there.
That's awesome.
And then just as like the education and the experience built, I always knew in the back of my mind I wanted to have my own business of something.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't know I was going to become a chiropractor, but ultimately like when the doors just opened up, I wanted to be about 3 to 5 years into my career before I made the leap on my own.
Yeah, for sure.
That was the initial plan. But then, the opportunity came up and my wife and I were just like, hey, like there's no better time than now. I had a little bit of a following, and then the opportunity opened up, so we just went for it. And
that's awesome.
10 months in now, and going really well. Don't regret a second. Just keep on blazing forward with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. Kind of seems very similar to John Gallup's story. Is like it's kind of like God's plan is when you decide to open up your own thing. Like there's really no set perfect time to do it. It's just like you kind of have to go for it, and it's like a leap of faith. Have faith that it will all work out. Yeah, talk about how smooth was the transition from leaving your last clinic to opening up your own spot.
I don't know how smooth we can say it was. Basically, biggest thing was like us trying to find a space for me to do it.
Yeah.
We were the clinic that I had in mind. We were looking for what come to find out was like a picky square footage. We were looking somewhere between like 12 and 1,500 square foot.
Gotcha.
And that was just like almost impossible to find. And so I was trying to like jam a square peg into a round hole a couple of times. Yeah. And then it just... because I was just looking to rent, and whether the owner was like, hey, that doesn't work, just didn't see my vision.
Yeah.
I ended up actually signing a letter of intent, which is like putting your name on a lease and saying I'm committing this to a place of like off of West Street. And the guy came back and was like asking for a bunch more. 10 months later, it's still for lease, so that's funny enough. But the guy that owns the building that I'm now in, he literally came and picked us up and drove us around and was like, I'm flipping this building.
Yeah.
And so we pulled up where my clinic is now, and I was like, we don't even have to get out. It's in the Delano district here in Wichita, which is like that's where I grew up. That's where my roots are. Right by the middle school that I went to, right by the elementary school my dad went to. I'm 4 blocks away from my grandpa's house. It was just like, that's awesome. Amazing. And 1,500 square foot building.
Nice.
This couldn't work out any better. But all in all, like, man, I can't even remember the dates. I'm pretty sure I was told that I would be able to open like 3 months before I did.
Okay.
And so I was like telling patients like, hey, it's time to go.
Yeah.
In the summer. So like June, July, and ultimately I ended up opening in October. So it was a little bit of a delay, but that just helped me set kind of the groundwork a little bit more before we did get opening. So
yeah, no, I've seen your clinic, and I feel like you guys definitely are in a good area of town, good location. I've heard that from a lot of different business owners is like, it's just like, when it's the right location just by looking at it, by the feel of it. That's really cool to hear. Why did you name your clinic Auxoma?
I'm going to plug my friend here.
Okay.
Brian Weens, he's big in the branding world, and he kind of helped me out with that. Just a friend of mine that knew I was going through this process of like opening up a business, and I can't even remember what I was thinking as far as naming it. He just looked at me one day and was like, you should let me help you out, man.
Nice.
And so I just had multiple meetings with him, just talking about what the vision was, kind of came up to that name together. So Auxoma is auxiliary and soma. Auxiliary meaning additional support, and soma meaning body. So it's additional support to the body. We particularly chose that because the style of practice that I have, we didn't want it to be limited to something chiropractic.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And putting that, not that there's like, I'm very proud to be a chiropractor. It's what I do for a living. It's what my license allows me to do.
For sure.
But as far as like a business to grow potentially beyond what I am as a chiropractor, we didn't want to put that limiter. Yeah, additional support to the body, Auxoma built in the name, and then that all worked out really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I think it is a good name, and that's kind of something, and we've talked a little bit, but that's where I'm at, is trying to rebrand myself a little bit, trying to find a good name. And I think that was advice you gave me, was try not to have like sports performance training or something like that in the name. So kind of talk about like how important as a business owner do you think it is to find a good name for your business?
I will say, like, starting off, it's not important.
Yeah, for sure.
My clinic name doesn't have to be Auxoma right now, because Auxoma and Dr. Justus are the same
thing. Yeah, for sure.
Right now. But like to ultimately grow beyond myself.
Yeah, for sure.
And to not put limits on whatever like the pieces that I bring into my business are going to become. So say you call something sports performance.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody that joins your team isn't and a part of a sports performance entity, but they could be something else, like that's going to put limits on even like your ability to bring people into your business.
No doubt.
So yeah, now it's like whatever pieces to the puzzle that I can pull in, the name in and of itself doesn't limit what that can be.
For sure.
And then it was a big deal for me. Like I'm saying, like Dr. Justus and Auxoma are the same, but like I'll never have to go through a rebrand.
That's
process,
good. Yeah.
Which I'm super happy about.
That's
as far
good.
As that goes.
Yeah. And like I said, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like right now, I'm just David Acow Training, which it doesn't matter right now because it's just me. But if I ever want to bring on trainers underneath me, that's probably not a good name for me to have.
I mean, it works though.
You can make it work. Yes, you can.
There's plenty of people. Mike Boyle, I'm pretty sure, huge name, and like that's his. Yeah, and there's plenty of those. There's plenty of those people out there. So I mean,
sure.
But ultimately, like some of the advice that I was given when you're building a business early on is like make every decision as if you're going to sell it.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, in the chiropractic field specifically, it's my last name, Chiropractic.
It is for sure.
Like, okay, you can't. That's not marketable.
No, I agree.
So when it's time for you to get out of the game, like whoever's going to buy your practice or take it over, I wouldn't want to be Johnson Chiropractic and like buy that out and be like, now what am I doing with this? So building something to be able to sell it, and the naming was a part of that.
So obviously you talked about your location, but how important do you feel your location truly is as a business owner?
I think it's pretty important. The biggest thing is just accessibility, or at least like what I love about being in Delano is people know what Delano is.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So number one, I'm centrally located. Number two, it's like it's got a name to, I know where that is.
Yes, that's right.
So people are familiar with it. I'm right off the highway, so that was a big deal. But for me, my location was all about like, this is where I literally was rooted in this town. It's where I grew up. And so you kind of talk about in healthcare, it's like you come back to work with the community that you grew up in and serve your community. And it's like, I have just never felt that more. And it just, because it happens to be like where my first business is rooted into where like I was as a kid. Like I'm watching kids walk home from Allison Middle School and I'm like, dang, that was me. Yeah. It's so cool. So,
yeah. That's gotta be super rewarding.
Yeah. Centrally located. If you listen to anybody else, they'll be like, make sure it's by water, things like that. But ultimately, man, like those things, the name and the location, albeit they're important, the most important thing is that
you're offering a good service.
You're offering a good service and you actually care about the service that you're offering and like you're passionate about it. Because if you've got that, everything else is just gonna figure itself out.
Absolutely. When you were looking at your location, did you look at things like the median income or surrounding businesses?
Honestly, 0%.
Yeah.
Like there was absolutely none of that. It was like, I need to find this space. And when we pulled up into that building, I was like, we don't even have to go in. I know this is the space. So there was like zero demographic research.
Nice.
Yeah, because ultimately too, like the way that I practice, I think is so unique that it's like, it takes me away from like the competition, quote unquote, of what a traditional chiropractor would be.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
So now, like if you build something like that, that people actually want to seek, like that little 20-minute drive isn't going to make a difference to them.
Absolutely. Talk about your education. So kind of describe the schooling and the barrier of entry that it takes to become a chiropractor.
Man, there's 2 states where you don't need a bachelor's degree, but you do have to get the doctorate of chiropractic. Kansas is one of the states that you need a bachelor's, so that's why I finished up at Wichita State. And then chiropractic school in and of itself, there's certain prerequisite classes. They'll be like, you have to have at least a B in these classes, chemistry, physics, like some stuff where you're like, does that really even make sense? But then the program in and of itself is 3 years, 4 months. Chiropractic school works on trimesters, and so it's the same summer, spring, fall. Yeah, it's the same distance. There's not like a shorter summer. So it's a 10 trimester program, 3 years, 4 months to be done. 5 total national board exams.
Wow.
You take one after your first year, and then there's one other, and then like pretty much right out the door, it's like number 3, number 4, number 5. And nice. So, you get those. That awards you your license in the state, and then you're good to go.
Nice. So, from a trainer point of view, like, I feel like, again, I told Clayton this, but, like, I feel like physical therapists and chiropractors are looked at as a lot more serious profession. Like, you guys are kind of typically referred to as doctors, which is awesome. I think typically people I know, like, when you think of a physical therapist and chiropractor, you think they probably make decent money. Whereas a lot of times with trainers, I don't know if they technically really get that stigma being, well respected in the industry and making a lot of money. So like from your point of view as a chiropractor, like why do you think personal training is looked at as a non-serious career compared to being a chiropractor?
Here's a quote that I love the value that you give folks is what God reimburses you.
Yeah.
The barrier to entry to become a trainer is low.
Very low.
It doesn't take a lot. In some situations, it just takes a six pack and showing up at the gym.
That is very true.
People.
It is very true.
So the barrier there is very low. And so like what value are you actually bringing to the market? And that's not to say like I know plenty of trainers that do amazing work and are highly educated. And so you're going to eventually reap the rewards of that. As far as like chiropractic and physical therapy, the barrier to entry is just much higher with the requirement of the doctorate degree. And then it's just built into the culture. Like when I was in school, we were big on pursuing continuing education while in school anyways. So I was a part of a huge friend group that just like pushed each other into doing that. And so it was like we were building that skill set. I think trainers, they don't realize how much value and how important they can be in this market.
Oh, no doubt.
And I think if more trainers woke up to the fact and realized like how wonderful of a career you can have
100%.
if you make yourself that valuable entity in it and you can provide that value to people. Like Clayton said it, you guys are like the first responders basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you're actually teaching people health care.
Yes.
We talk about that like someone comes into me, as much as I say like chiropractic is healthcare, nobody comes into my office like, hey man, I feel great. I just want to keep feeling great. That's just not a thing that happens. So somebody comes in and it's like, I have this back pain, knee pain, shoulder, whatever. There's something medically there that we are treating.
Yeah.
And so you have to, there's a bit of that quote unquote like sick care. You've got to rehab that, get it back to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And versus whereas a trainer, you just get to make people better and better and better and better. And that's what you're seeing at is the market. And in the market is like the lifestyle enhancers, which is exactly what you are.
Yes.
So more trainers take that seriously and you hunker down, you get your experience, you get your education. You're so valuable.
Very
and
true.
You'll be rewarded as that.
No, 100%. I agree. You know, being a trainer, I think really it's just a very, very rewarding career. It does come with a lot of downfalls, but you know, I think the sad reality is a lot of people don't take it seriously. Like a lot of times it's a side gig for trainers is, you know, it's just something to push them through college or, you know, a side gig to their full-time job. And it's not, a lot of people don't take it seriously. And then I think a lot of times like people don't take it seriously. The barrier of entry is low. And then trainers actually end up hurting their clients. And that's probably why they get sent to chiropractors and physical therapists. And I think Clayton said it the other day, like the sad reality is there's a lot of bad trainers, and then it just makes kind of the industry as a whole look bad and reflects on even the good ones too.
Yeah, my industry feels that.
Yes,
well.
Absolutely. Yes. No, and I think physical therapy, like there's a lot of industries that you could say the same thing. So from your point of view, like what do you think needs to improve in the personal training industry to make it looked at as a more serious career?
When I was in exercise science, we were doing a project and my idea was to match people based off like with their goals, based off of like the credentials that you have. So I'm seeking a trainer that specializes in this or has education and coursework in this. Mm-hmm. And so if you can niche out and like specialize in a specific market and you know that like you can take care of that person specifically, right? So then I know like sports training, you're the guy to go to. Yeah. Baseball players, my buddy Jordan Knox with Fort Knox Fitness and Untamed Athletes, like that's the guy. Basketball trainers, I've got a guy, Craig Nicholson, shout out to you. And so you find that area in your market. For sure. I've got friends that like specialize in geriatrics.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, you do that, but you find your value and then actually educate yourself in it and how you can help people instead of, you know, just fall into like cookie cutter traps of like, I think a lot of trainers early on, this works for me, so it's got to work for everybody, and that's not the case. So find your market that you work with and jive with and run with it. Yeah,
well said.
I'll go on a little aside. Like I'll make fun of myself a little bit. Yeah. I was in my third year of college. This is not a joke. Like I was working with my buddy in the gym. Yeah. I hadn't started my exercise science coursework, but like I was third year going into like my junior year of college. Yeah. And I would tell him like, hey, I think this is your ACL. And I was pointing at his hamstring too. So like, whoo. And at that point I was quote unquote a trainer. And so it's like, I was more educated than like the average person.
Oh, I'm sure.
So it's like, man, pursue that value.
Yeah. And that's the thing is as a trainer, like really you've got to, there's a good quote I like is the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know, or something like that.
Yeah, that's the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes.
I love the Dunning-Kruger effect. For listeners, if you don't know it, Dunning-Kruger racks your competence So like your understanding of something versus your confidence.
Yes.
So your perceived understanding of something. And when you first get into it, confidence is through the roof. And if you look at it, the Dunning-Kruger, they call that Mount Stupid.
Yes, that's right.
Right. And then all of a sudden you learn a little bit more and you're like, whoa, I've got a lot to learn.
Yes,
and then you
right.
go down. So confidence plummets before competence can build up.
Yeah.
And as far as, you know, you're pretty outspoken about why there's so much turnover and why people leave personal training so much.
Yeah.
That has to be a huge component is you realize how much you have to learn.
Yes.
Now, some people look at that as like, look at all that I get to learn. Somebody like yourself that's willing to put that work in and pursue it.
Yeah.
Now confidence and confidence start to stack up and you just become a super valuable entity in our market. But a lot of people, man, they hit that, what they call valley of despair, where it's like, I'm super high confidence, not a lot of competence, boom.
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow, like maybe this isn't the industry for me. You can either look at that as like the glass is half full, I've got all this to learn.
Yeah.
Or you can be like, I'm going to go sell insurance.
Yeah, for sure. It's very true. It's a real thing. So we'll talk about chiropractic knowledge. So what is your approach when an injured client comes to you?
So number one is to make sure like I am the person to help them. I've got a lot of like mental check boxes that I go through of like, is this person looking for the service that I have to offer?
Yeah.
Once we check those boxes and like, does my style fit with them? If we're talking about when it comes down to like my assessment, for a lot of people, albeit except for like acute injuries, you step outside, you step off a curb wrong, you roll your ankle.
Yeah.
A lot of injuries are what are overuse. Right. So if something's being overused, something's being underused. So I use something, the SFMA is a movement screen that tells me like, hey, your body is incapable of this movement.
Yeah.
And then we can connect the dots to the pain that you're having. So say you have back pain and we can relate it to the fact that your hip doesn't internally rotate or you've got this big difference and you don't have that for an accommodation to be better at your sport or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everybody's a puzzle. That's the easiest way that I can put it.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to figure out those puzzle pieces and how it relates to the complaint that they present with. So now I can treat something from, okay, we've got this going on pain-wise, but then we've got this that could be leading to it, and then we can treat it from both ends. So I can do my tricks like dry needling and adjusting and things like that to help with pain. But then ultimately on this side of things, it's like, hey, let me show you how to work and be on the preventative side so that we can attack that from both ends. So it's something that you can feel better about and then actually get over permanently.
So I'll share the story. So you had actually took me through like an assessment. It was SFMA, I think a little bit of FMS. Just kind of looking at how I move, did some tests on me. You did some dry needling. So yeah, that was, and I told Clayton this, like I did the same thing with him. I went through an assessment and it was like almost 80%, very similar. I think chiropractors, a lot of time you guys get the stigma of just popping people and adjusting people. Like how much of that do you actually do?
Pretty much with everybody. Good quote with this is like, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. In chiropractic school, we literally just like, as far as treatment goes, we pretty much just learn how to adjust.
Okay.
Like we take like 2 classes total that are like what they call the PT classes where you're learning exercise or you're learning like scraping, ISTM, something like that.
Yeah.
But very small percentage of our education, majority of it goes to just learning how to pop something or adjust something.
Yeah.
So it's a skill that I use, but it's not the thing. Right.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of offices, like if that's the only skill that you have, well, when you come in, it's like, that's what they're going to use.
Yeah.
So that's just why it was important to me to kind of seek out that extra knowledge in what I can bring and help somebody. And I owe a lot to like mentors that I had and people that I looked up to in school as well that kind of pushed me in that direction.
Nice. So another thing I've heard, again, with both chiropractic offices and physical therapy offices is like, in order to find a good one, you kind of should try and find one that has a gym inside the clinic. And you do have a little space where it has, weights and barbells and stuff like that. So ultimately, why do you have a gym inside your clinic?
I would say you don't necessarily need to find a chiropractor or a PT with a gym to like make sure it's a good one.
Yeah.
But that should be telling to you if you're in a place that you jive with.
Yeah.
If you're like, this is the place for me. Because people that don't know how I practice, they come in and they're like, well, what? He's got a gym? They're almost like weird about it. Like, he's going to make me go out there and squat? And it's like, that's not necessarily the case. For me, what I pride myself on is everything that I have in my clinic is something that you can have in your own home, in your garage, like you have access to. There's no fancy like laser machine that you will become dependent on using. There's no table that's going to stretch you out. I know like why those are used, but it's going to create dependency in that person. And so everything that I have is so that I can teach you, hey, here's what we're working on. Here's how you do it on yourself and by yourself. And then you know this with with exercise, there's no limits to like what the body can adapt to and what it can become.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the most fun is you can just progress and that like, and what are you going to do to progress the table that stretches you? We're going to make it pull instead of 80 pounds last week, it's going to pull 100 pounds this week. That's your progression. Like what? You're not seeing those improvements. And with a gym and with exercise, you can actually see the improvements and the changes that are happening. And then that's like light bulb moments for people. They're like,
absolutely.
whoa. And you can make it applicable to what they have going on. So like, my professional athletes, it's like we can do this and tie it into whatever your sport is. Work with a lot of basketball players. So we can tie that into your sport and as far as basketball goes. Or like my 50-year-olds that just got brand new grandkids.
Yeah.
It's like here's you playing with your grandkid that just happens to in my clinic look like a kettlebell.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah. That's awesome. So we'll talk about a little bit more business. So what does a normal day look like for you as a business owner?
Just grinding.
Yes, I hear that.
Just grinding, baby. Head down and just figuring it out. Like
for sure.
And I went into business having zero business skills.
Yep.
And so now like we've got our 3 components that we can give back to life is time, talent, and money.
Yep.
Time, money, and talent, right? And so for me right now, I'm at a point where I am investing my time and my money into learning business skills.
Yeah.
And so that's just where a lot of that is going because
100%, yep.
I have done I've been in full grind mode to be a great chiropractor. I'm not saying I'm losing that. Like I have clinical mentorship and I'm still trying to learn as much as possible because I'm absolutely not where I want to be at as a chiropractor, but I'm damn sure not where I want to be
as a business owner,
business-wise. And so it's like that's where all those efforts are going into. And so it's just, I mean, putting your head down and figuring it out and seeking mentorship. One of the best decisions that I made was seeking mentorship as far as business goes because that dude is just like, quit focusing on this, focus on this. And it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And so it's just every day figuring it out and just appreciating the process too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of where I'm at too. And that's where I see a lot of trainers struggle. And especially when a trainer wants to open up their own gym, typically they're great. Like the way I think about it is if been in this industry, 3 years, 5 years, like you're probably a good trainer, but it's the business skills that I think really sets you apart. Knowing how to sell, knowing how to market yourself. I see a lot of trainers, new trainers especially, really struggle with that. And that's kind of where I'm at too. Like I just kind of started my own business. I've been training for over 3 years now. I feel like I have a generally good understanding I've gotten lots of reps at training clients. So I want to say like almost 80% of my time is spent towards, learning the business. I did hire a business coach and it's been a good investment so far, having somebody to hold you accountable and tell you the right things to focus on. Because again, I think a lot of times business owners, they focus on the wrong things.
I mean, you said it like people kind of shudder at the word sales.
Yeah.
They're like, especially like myself, right? I'm a chiropractor, I'm in healthcare, and it's like, what's sales? And that's how I was early on until I realized that, okay, sales and marketing are the thing to make sure the person that is in front of me is the perfect fit for what I do.
Yeah.
And then the sell is just me showing them, hey, this is why we're such a good match. And if all those things connect, then it's like, that's where magic happens. And we're not trying to force a relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
Like my example, I'm not the quick pop-em chiropractor. So one of the things that I do in my sales process is to make sure my core values line up with who's across from me.
Yeah.
And if the thing that you're looking for is just quick pop pain relief, it's like, I know clinics that will offer that and give that to you. I'm not going to sell to you.
Yeah.
Because what I have to sell doesn't match up with what you're looking for. And that's liberating. And, I'm fortunate only being 10 months into business. Like I'm at the point now where I can look at somebody and be like,
nice.
Hey, we're not a good fit,
For
at
sure.
least now.
Yeah.
You would be better off here.
Yeah.
If these things ever come up or you want to have a conversation about it, like with the more intensive lawn care fix, then there it is. But it's available for you when we're ready to make that leap. But like early on, man, it was just like,
you got to take
you
everybody.
want to be my patient?
Yeah, no.
Like, please.
That's kind of where I'm at too. Is like I said, my kind of target market is athletes, but there have been times where I've desperately tried to get a general pop client, and sometimes it's not the best fit for me. And kind of like you said, you kind of have to really focus on your niche and specialize. And I think that helps you become better as a trainer or as a chiropractor.
Yeah, for sure. And then it helps you build your network. Because if you're like, I don't fit with this person, who does? And if you don't have that in your circles, it's like, I got to find that person.
Yeah.
So for you in that example, it's like Gen Pop, whoever that is, you can be more specific with it, but this person doesn't jive or fit with what I do. Okay, who does? And then now you have a relationship, because now when that person has somebody that I've got this youth athlete that I don't know anything to do, and it's like, David.
Yeah. So talk about like, who is your ideal client?
I have two. So number one is like 35 to 50-year-old career working male.
Okay.
Males in and of themselves, they're stubborn. They've never really taken care of any problems, because they're the man in the house who's just supposed to put his head down, deal with it, and provide for the family.
Yep.
And so you put yourself on the back burner. And then so those little things start to fester, and now all of a sudden you've had the same complaint for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And it's like you've kind of been in what I call the medical pinball machine of, well, this guy said I need this. This surgeon said that I'm a surgical candidate here in 3 years.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of lost in that. That's the person that I love to work with, because it's like I can show you, hey, man, you have this knee complaint. This is why they're talking about like you need a scope or whatever it is, because you've been putting it off. But if it's, once again, if it's overused, something's underused. So we can work on this, and then the knee's just going to take care of itself.
Yeah.
So it's that person who's kind of neglected their own health in pursuit of providing for their family and just put their things on the back burner. But now they're at a point of like, okay, retirement's in 20 years. I got to start thinking about that.
Yeah.
So that person I absolutely love to work with, like former athlete who was still like, I hurt myself playing high school football. And it's like, okay, haven't taken care of it in 20 years. Let's get to work.
Yeah.
And so I like working with that. And then I do work with high school to like early professional career athletes. I've got a few of those. They're super fun to work with, because I like working with athletes because they're so interested in that 1% gain.
Yes.
Or that 0.5% gain, or just that little thing that you can tweak that's going to give them a competitive advantage.
Yes.
And so you can really like just dial in on the littlest, most picky things with them, and they just run with it.
Absolutely.
And so that's super fun.
No doubt. Do you accept insurance? Why or why not?
I am what's considered an out-of-network provider, so I can accept like health savings accounts, flex savings accounts, but I am out-of-network because something that we talk about is, okay, so say you work with athletes, so it's probably important that like you have a parent there.
Yeah. Yep.
When you're talking about what that athlete needs as far as what you can provide for them.
Definitely.
And that's because that parent is the financial decision maker.
Yep.
Now, how insurance works is I contract on my end on the chiropractic side with the insurance company. And it says, I agree to these terms, which means you can pay me this for these services.
Yeah.
And then the patient signs their own contract that says, I agree to these terms, which means I will pay this for these services. And neither one of us really understand that contract that we signed.
Right.
And so now the financial decision maker in our relationship, when I'm talking about the care that I can provide to you, is not in the room, because it's the insurance company.
Yeah.
And so I just tell people all that, like, do you want results, or do you want me to do what your insurance tells me that I have to do?
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And then it's such a sleazy thing, but like a lot of insurance businesses, be it physical therapists or chiropractors, they're going to base their care off of what they're reimbursed for by your insurance. But that's the contract that you guys signed up for. And now all of a sudden you're getting care that maybe not in your best interest.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just like, look, here's my rate, here's my fee, but within that time, we're going to do these things for this reason, and nobody's going to tell us different. There's no surprise fees. It's just cleaner and it's easier. And then we can still submit to out-of-network benefits, where if people have coverage, then they can use that.
How hard is it to get buy-in from clients to pay the full price for treatment?
I would say it's getting easier and easier as I start to find like who my ideal client is and be better versed in explaining to them how I can help them and why.
Definitely, yeah.
Like at least at first, like when I was maybe a little more unclear about like what we were doing, why we were doing it, it seemed harder.
For sure.
But like now, like I taught, like I've got 5 check boxes in my head that I go back to, and I'm like, where did I miss? Like, did I not dial in enough on like what this person's real pain point was? Like, you tell me it's knee pain and that it hurts when you're squatting, but is it really the fact that like you just went on a vacation to the Grand Canyon, you had to sit on a bench while your family went and continued to hike because your knee hurt so bad? Like now all of a sudden we're tapped into that.
Absolutely.
And if I know what your actual goal is, then getting that buy-in is just it's a way smoother, cleaner process.
I agree.
So that's the thing. Like, you know, I shuddered and I was like scared of the word sales, and I was like, man, I don't want to be a like sleazy salesman. But ultimately, you realize, no, I've got a beautiful thing that I have to offer this specific market. And if you can educate and talk to somebody about like why, then sales is easy.
I agree. And that's kind of, where I'm at too is like a big market of mine is club volleyball athletes and increasing the vertical jump. And I've just found the sales process to be very smooth for me because I can educate, how they're going to increase their vertical, tell stories of girls I've worked with in the past and give like real life examples. And I feel like that having that ideal client, it's really a lot easier for me to sell as opposed to like an older adult that I don't really work with a lot.
There you go. And the takeaway that I got from that is competence and confidence are going up together at that point.
For sure.
You're very competent in being able to, like, I know I can take care of this athlete because I got this track record that tells me that I can.
Yeah.
And then, like you dial into your idea. And then they're seeking that too.
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to, like, at least in my office, nobody's going to show up and just be like, I'm perfect.
Yeah.
Like you're here for a reason.
For sure.
And so that person needs help with something. Find out if you are the person to help. And then if you are and they align with what you're doing, then that sale is easy.
Yeah, for sure. So how important do you think it is for chiropractors to understand business?
Pretty darn. Yeah. I think, a little bit of a stigma that I have. A lot of chiropractors, like if you look at the chiropractic industry in general, we're all very different.
Yeah.
We're all very different. We bring our own twist into the market. It's very we're very entrepreneurial driven. I personally see and know some chiropractors that get into it for a business and not to be a healthcare provider. And I think if you've got those lines mixed and blurred, then I mean, that's going to have to show up with some problems down the road.
Yeah.
Like if you're only seeing dollar signs instead of patients, then that in and of itself is a problem. But business skills are super important because you got to be able to get yourself out there to your perfect patient.
Yeah.
So that person that's not the perfect patient or your perfect patient isn't showing up in somebody's office who's not perfect to help them.
Yep.
And then they don't get the result that they needed.
So we'll talk about networking. So how do you go about finding clients?
I've got a few gyms and a country club that I network with here in town. Yeah. And so big things for me are, I'll do workshops, education hours, going into like a business or like country club. Hey, what's your pain points? Like where are your people having their biggest problems? Let me educate people on that. And then ultimately, because that's groundwork where you're actually getting out, meeting people, shaking hands, and showing your expertise in that particular field. Like my TPI background is like I can easily do that with golfers. I can talk that game with them and work with them in a very fluid way. So
you talked about networking groups and the golf community. Like what about social media and referrals?
Yes, social media is something that I'm actually trying to improve on.
Man. No, hey, it's looking good.
Yeah, shout out to Jake Ginger for the help, man. He's absolutely incredible, and I love having him help me out with that. I know I'd be better with social media. A guy that helped me out early on with social media was just like, dude, put a tripod in your gym and record what you're doing because it's so unique and like people are going to see that.
Absolutely.
But it's the last thing I think about when I'm working with somebody. It's like I'm just trying to help you. I'm not going to be that guy like, hold on 1 second.
Yes.
And go and set up
I've been there.
Well, you do it and you do it very well, and then you can put that out there. And
for
so
sure.
I'm sure, social media is probably powerful for you.
It is
because of that.
Yeah.
But man, I just my mind doesn't go there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, social media is one that I'm trying to boost with, but ultimately it's just like in-person networking.
Yeah.
It doesn't get better than that.
I
and
completely
actually
agree.
Building genuine relationships.
Completely agree. Yeah, I mean, like how important is it for you to network and make yourself known in the community?
Is very important. I mean, you want to be known as the guy that helps with this. Yeah. Right. You also ultimately like you want to be a trustworthy source. And when it comes to networking, it's like people need to know like, hey, I will send you my mom because I trust you, and building that trust at first. Yeah. Like that just comes with time. Leading with value is one of those things that's important. You and Clayton talking about Jake. I actually was the one that led with value with that.
Oh, nice.
So I reached out to Jake and I was like, look, man, I'm struggling with social media. I need help with this. Here's what I can offer in return. And I was basically like, I've got this extra education that I can show you, and we can go over for like an hour in the mornings and then just help me film content. Nice. So now he's getting the benefit of learning from me. I'm getting the benefit of being able to teach to him and the social media creation. So leading with value and just being somebody that can be a trustworthy source to that person. So it's like, if I refer you my mom, like, I trust you, and being that in the community and showing that value is important.
Nice. We should have let Jake have his shout out from Clayton. I guess it's a completely different story. So we'll have to, no, I'm just kidding. So Clayton basically said that he thought Jake went to you and was like, hey, how can I help you?
Oh yeah. I mean, it works. No. It's a two-way street. Like we're definitely both helping each other. Yeah. I think Jake is helping me more than I'm helping him. Yeah. So I absolutely love that. But I was the one that reached out because I was like, I got a problem with this social media. Yeah. And how can I fix it? And I was like, that's a good idea.
Yeah, no, just giving Jake a hard time. Good. So what are your thoughts on networking groups?
I was a little hesitant with networking groups at first until I realized the value of it. To me, like early on networking groups, it just felt like fake. Like everybody kind of felt like used car salesmen.
I think that's the reputation they get typically.
But really, so like I'm a part of a BNI group and I absolutely love it because it's the same people that you're meeting with every single week. And so it's like they know what I'm about. They know what my message is. They know if they send somebody my way, what they're going to get, because I've got this track record of every week showing up and talking about this is exactly what I do. And so they can learn to trust that. And then you just become familiar with the people that are around you rather than like those, it almost feels like minute dating games. Like you're just like, hi, my name's Dr. Justus. I am a chiropractor. And then it's over with, right? Yeah. It's really hard to like establish a deep, well-rooted relationship with people very quickly. So a lot of those networking groups, that's what it feels like. It's just like, hey, let me introduce you to my friend. And then it's like, I do this. Yeah. And just hope that you fall in love with them in 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's hard.
Not how it works.
No, it's not.
Yeah, those ones, you're rewarded with time and longevity. And so at least that's like BNI has shown that to me, showing up to WEBA, the Wichita Business Association, Independent Business Association, showing up to that and just being consistent with that, seeing familiar faces, like just keep doing that and building your relationships up.
So again, I told Clayton this story, but like, something a lot of people will say when, about getting clients is like, oh, just network with chiropractors and physical therapists and have them, send referrals to you. And again, like that's not a terrible idea, but again, I just don't know. I don't think that's as easy as people think, because like you said, and Clayton and I talked about this, is you have to build trust with, whoever, for somebody to put their name on the line and send you a referral. Like you have to build trust. And then I would assume you probably know a lot of trainers and gyms around town that you could probably send clients to. So like, what is your approach when a personal trainer tries to network with you?
Get to know them.
Yeah.
Get to know them as a person.
Yeah,
if I can trust you as a person, then I know that I can trust you with the person that I'm going to send you. Yeah. To be honest, like just show me like how valuable of a human being you are. Yeah. And then, all the other stuff will come. Leading with value is one of those things that's just absolutely incredible. I think you do a really good job with this, with your social media, is like you have it as a proven track record. Like you can see that I'm doing these wonderful things with these kids. Like on your social media, you can look at it and be like, man, those kids are having fun. Like you can see that. And I would care more about that because like, I know if I'm referring a kid to you, like worst case scenario, you're going to have a really good time working with it. Like and I know that you bring way more than that, but it's like you can see that. And so you've built yourself up as a trustworthy source. And so ultimately like everything comes together and then those referrals will come to you. But just having a genuine relationship with people at first and making it being mutual as well. Like
for sure.
How can we help each other with each other? And
for sure. What tips do you have for like a trainer that's, going to reach out to a chiropractor and try and network?
Yeah, at least for me, like what seems to work the best and what I love is having them coming in and shadowing, seeing how I treat, seeing how the office works, or even then like, you did this early on, like coming and seeing how I would do an assessment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or put me through one of your assessments. Definitely. You put me through an assessment as well and like put me through a workout. And I was like, this guy knows what he's doing. And so that way you can at least see it and you've got that proven track record. So for me, it's like if someone's trying to network with me, I'll offer it up. I'll be like, hey, come and see what it looks like from a treatment standpoint, so you can see that what I'm doing and see if it is helpful and something that works for you. For sure. And then, you can see that trust and reciprocate that. Put me through a workout. Yeah, absolutely. I can hang and let's see what you can put me through and have a good time that way. But that lets you see what each other is about. Absolutely. And how you can work together. Yeah,
I think as trainers, that's so valuable, and you should never miss out on those opportunities to network and to go through those things yourself, like going through an assessment from a physical therapist or a chiropractor, or getting a massage from a massage therapist, because then you can actually say you've experienced and like what they're all about, and you just never know where that relationship will lead to. So we will move on. I call this hot takes. What are your thoughts on the Joint Chiropractic?
Okay. I think in and of itself, like the Joint is not a bad thing if you know what you're signing up for. If your expectation is like full pain relief, like this is going to take care of my problem, it's probably not. But if your expectation is I like getting popped, that feels good to get adjusted, I'm going to go in time to time, that keeps me going throughout the week, that's your expectation, then it's a good thing. But all in all, like I think it almost like saturates the value that we have. For sure. There's no way that what we do, chiropractic school was a $180,000 investment.
Wow.
And now you're telling me that it's a $70 a month membership?
Yeah, that's right.
Those don't add up. And
Yeah,
so you
no doubt.
as a consumer or as a patient, as somebody that would use the joint, you have to
Yeah.
look at that and be like, what value am I getting from this? Value being like, what is the difference in the cost? So
Yeah.
value is what is excess or behind what the actual like sticker cost is.
Yeah,
What is the value of the joint? Well, if it already costs $70, like, is it even that valuable?
for sure.
If it is to you, then use it.
Yeah.
But just know that it's not going to be a permanent solution to whatever, if you do have a problem, what that is. But if you just like to
Yeah.
feel good because you work a desk job, they pop your back real quick, then you can go about your day and you can grab some Chipotle right next door and go for it.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think it's beneficial for a chiropractor to start in that setting, like at the joint?
You'll get a heck of a lot of experience.
Yeah,
You'll
that's
get a heck
right.
of a lot of experience. One of the most important things for me early on was just learning how to talk to people. I think, you going through school, so 7.5 years of college is just like you learn so much. It's like textbook, and there's never that human interaction.
Yeah.
If you want a ton of human interaction, something like the joint where you're seeing somebody every 3 minutes,
no doubt.
it's just like,
Yeah.
you're getting a ton of that. You're getting a ton of experience, a lot of hands-on bodies.
Yeah.
And so in a very short amount of time, you can build a big amount of experience as far
Yes.
as like talking with people and then
Yes.
just having a plethora of things that you have now seen in your career in a
Yes.
very short amount of time.
Oh, no doubt.
And so that's super valuable. Actually, in my business group, my business coach, he jokes that he puts the joint out of business, so to speak,
yeah.
because a lot of the guys that are in my group, they started out in the
Yeah,
joint,
for
getting that
sure.
experience, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, now I'm confident enough in my skills to be able to go and do this.
For sure.
Which, like, I had that experience. I worked before I opened up with Auxoma. I was at a clinic for about 1.5 years, so I got that time, I got those reps, that
sure.
communication with people,
Yeah.
hands-on bodies, and building up that skill.
Yeah.
And so, that's super valuable for somebody.
Absolutely. And I agree. It's like it goes hand in hand, like with a big box gym setting, like the YMCA or Genesis or Planet Fitness. As a trainer, like I started off in that setting and I got tons of reps, got to talk to people every single day on the fitness floor, which is like invaluable because now I'm at a private studio. Like there's not really a high volume of people walking in that are potential clients. Like they say, big box gyms, you have leads walking in every second. And so just getting tons of reps on consultations and training at all these different, like obviously I think when you're starting off as a trainer, you should not necessarily niche down immediately. Like you should work with just about everything and everything you can work with. And then, 1-2 years down the line, once you find what you really enjoy doing, that's when you start find that niche and specializing. I think it could be beneficial to start off in that setting just to get that experience.
Yeah, for sure. Let your niche find you.
Yeah.
In that type of environment, that capacity, that's really good. And then also like the takeaway from that is we are always learning too.
Yeah,
I tell my patients that all the time. I'm like, I'm learning from you just as much as I hope you're learning from me.
Absolutely.
Because everybody's different. Everybody's a new experience. I'm learning what your body can adapt to, what it can tolerate, my communication skills with different types of people.
Yeah.
So everybody that walks into my office is like, this is a new learning experience for both of us.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're learning from me and what I have to offer, but trust and believe like I'm learning from you as well. And I take that very seriously. And when I feel like things are going wrong, then you take a step back and be like, man, what I miss, what's going wrong, how can I learn from that person? So everybody that we come across just makes us better. And that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Do you view other chiropractors as competition? Why or why not?
Yes, 100% yes.
You do?
And to act like competition isn't real is silly. That's my hot take. How about that? This is hot
That
take.
is a hot take.
Oh, but there's good and bad competition. There's no Magic Johnson without Larry Bird, right?
Yeah.
Like you need that type of competition.
For
You need that
sure.
fuel. Like I am very fortunate that I have people who do what I do at a very high clip that I can look up to. They've been in the game for 6, 7, 8 years now. I'm 10 months in, and it's like, you best believe I'm going to be where you're at in 2 years.
Yes.
Because you've paved that way and allowed me to see what it can become. And thank you for trailblazing and showing me how it can be done. That's positive competition.
Yeah.
Right? So like we can learn from each other in a good way, and that's going to make us all better. Then there's the flip side. Bad competition to me is the joint.
Yeah.
Who's gonna pop somebody for $10 and like, so then when somebody calls me and I have the conversation and we end up talking about like what my rate is, they're like, whoa, just because
Yeah.
that expectation is so different. So
Yeah.
there's good and bad competition as far as like what we are competing against and then what is helping us become more competitive in the market. And I think both are vitally important, and to act like neither one exists is silly.
Yeah, that was a hot take. I think I've asked this question to pretty much everybody on the podcast.
Everybody just wants to be nice. Competition is real. And like,
yeah, it is real. I will say that, but it's I think too many times people view it as like insecurity.
right.
Right.
What I'm not saying is like we're stealing people from each
Yeah.
other, right?
Yeah.
Wichita's 400,000 people. You're going to attract who you are meant to attract to, who you are meant to attract, and that's going to happen. But like, you know, the market needs competition
for sure. And it like John Gallup told me, he said, competition is healthy because it drives you to be better. And like, yeah, it is silly to say that there's not competition because like at the end of the day, like it's very unrealistic that a client or athlete of mine is going to be going to multiple sports performance trainers. There's a lot of trainers in the area that offer sports performance. It's kind of oversaturated. So technically I am competing in that market.
100%.
So,
and then there's competition coming up too.
Yeah.
So we keep bringing his name up, Jake, right? Like somebody like that.
He's coming. He's coming.
Somebody like that who's coming up in the market and is like ready to put their skills into what we do. Like somebody like that, you have to show that like, okay, you either like, that's what I hope my business represents, is like a place for him to be like, that's where my skill set is met, and like I can grow and improve in my skills through that. Not I can do better than that, because then when somebody like that is like, man, I can do better than that, and then they go and do it, and now there's more competition.
It just causes a fire. And like I think that's so common is like you get a trainer whoever, chiropractor, physical therapist, they start underneath a brand and they think I can do better, and they open their own thing, and that is competition ultimately.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
But like, it is.
Like Auxoma wouldn't exist if I felt like there was a place for my skills to have landed.
Yes.
But like ultimately, when I got pushed back into the job market, I was very close to joining a couple of other practices, and it probably would have been a great opportunity. But I felt like the skills that I personally had to bring to the market,
for sure,
there was nothing out there that was going to cater to that. And how I can best help somebody was to establish my own thing. So now it's like you have to build a product that somebody else, like a future Dr. Justus coming up, is like, that's where my skill set aligns. And then you can grow together. Like younger guys are going to drive us to improve. People that have done it before us are going to inspire us and show us like, this is what it could be. This is how you could do this. And so competition is a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
Yeah. So just curious, as a business owner, like, this is an interesting question, but like, let's just say Jake Gindra does decide to open up his own clinic. How would that make you feel? Would you be happy for him, or would that be, how would that be as a business owner?
I'd be stoked.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, because I know what it's like, and I would offer like what my mentorship was, and people ahead of me, like the place I did my internship, Jordan Chiropractic, the owner of that is just like, any business advice, anytime I ever have a question, I need to run something by her, she's there for me.
That's really cool.
Because we had that relationship, and she doesn't have like that scarcity mentality. She's like, I've been in the game for 20 years.
That's
like,
good.
You're not taking anything from me.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And it's like, I'd be stoked for him, because that would tell me that, okay, you see something in yourself that you can bring to this market to make it better.
Yeah.
Then that's a check to me of being like, how can I improve my own business?
Yeah.
Like if you saw something that, you didn't like about it, or that you ultimately wouldn't want to join, and it pushed you to build your own thing.
Yeah.
Like, how can I tweak something within my own business to make it better, so that the next year doesn't become that?
Sure.
And then also it's like, well, game on. That's the good thing about competition is like, all right, because now I know what the grind has been these last 10 months, and just trying to build something and having the 3, 5, 10-year plan in your head, and just being like, a day at a time. Yeah. You want to sign up for that grind, then man, yes, you seek mentorship. I will help you with that.
That's good.
But ultimately, like, I would rather you be like,
join.
That's the thing that jives with me, and that I would like to do. I had this conversation with Clayton when I went out to Natural Wellness for the first time. I was like, I wish I knew you guys existed.
Yeah.
I literally had no idea. And maybe not that it would have led to anything, but that's at least a conversation. Yeah. Because we do practice so similarly. Like, man, maybe our skill sets would have aligned.
Yeah.
I literally had no idea. I was like, nobody else is doing this. I'm doing it. And then, meeting them and just how wonderful they are. Clayton and Courtney, the founder.
Yeah.
great people. And, you know, that could have been something entirely different.
That's good.
And now we're quote unquote competition, but we're in a very, very healthy way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I think that says a lot about you as a business owner, because I do know of some business owners where their employee goes to start their own thing and it's like, don't ever talk to me again. Like, yeah, there's insecurity. Yes. Insecurity. So well said. All right, we'll start to wrap it up. So talk about social media. How important is this for you as a chiropractor / business owner?
I mean, I guess it's important. The other night I was like editing some Instagram videos and my wife was like, babe, put your phone down. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, for me, it's trying to find that balance.
Oh, for sure.
And once again, like I talked about social media, I know I could be doing more social media wise because like what I'm doing in my clinic is so unique, so different, and we're helping people in such cool ways that like if I was broadcasting that more people would see it and be like, man, what's going on in there? Yeah. But it's not where my mind goes, but it is. I mean, it's immensely important. It's free marketing.
It 100% is. Yeah. Especially if you do it right.
Yep. Free game. And so it's honestly, it's something that I'm trying to get better and better at.
No, I think your guys' game is better than most chiropractic clinics.
Because we post.
Yes. And that's the thing. Well, that is half the work. It's just posting consistently.
Yeah, 100%. But like that is definitely a skill that I'm actually seeking to improve on. Once again, there are 3 things: time, money, and talent.
Yeah.
I invested in some money to learn how to be better at social media marketing. So now some time is going into that and just trying to figure it out, but also trying to find that balance. Life-work balance, quote unquote, if that even exists. And,
for sure.
You know, John talked about first 3 years, head down, go.
80 hours a week.
Yep, grind.
What about having a nice website? How important is that?
Website's super important. Like, people nowadays are going to find you digitally before they usually find you in person. At least for me, and like my marketing efforts early on has just been grassroots, getting out and shaking hands. So not a lot of people show up on my website. And if they do, they're not converting into patients. I can tell you that. Yeah. And so, you know, a good website is important because it's one of the things that's going to speak to your target market, your audience, your avatar, and say for them to be able to find themselves within it. And so a good website is that. They talk about it takes like 7 touches before somebody will commit to something. Website's a touch.
It is.
And so if you have a good website that speaks to your avatar, then they're like, ooh, awesome. And then they go to your social media and it does too. Yeah. And then they are like, man, maybe I should give this person a call. And then they give you a call. There's touch 3.
Yes.
And
okay, so I don't have a website yet, but like obviously my website is my social media, and I've made I sent some emails out. It's funny, like I send emails out. I can see analytics on my Facebook page. Like after I send emails out to like groups of people, I can see the analytics rise like 30 minutes on my Facebook page because people are looking up, who is this guy? Yeah. And so if you have a good website or good social media or Google reviews, like that is going to immensely help your sales process. Cause like sometimes like the sale is already made just by when they look at your social media or website, like, or even if somebody refers you, like if somebody trusts you, like it's going to be so much easier to make a sale and get a new client.
Yep. It's just a thing that people can find their story, and if it matches up with what you do, and you can find that in a website. Yeah, so I think it's important. My business coach is like, I got to remake the website every year. He's like, you should just know it's a cost that you're going to have to invest in over and over and over again. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think at least with our website, like I'm close to wanting to do more with it because as I've built so much through grassroots, it's like tapping into the digital game is definitely like what's next for me. Obviously, I'm going to continue with my grassroots efforts, you know, getting out and just meeting people.
Yeah, nothing will ever beat that.
Nothing will ever beat that. But the website stuff, I mean, it still exists, and the digital world still exists, and so trying to build that up, that just being like the next phase and jump that I make.
So yeah, obviously I'm a new business owner, and I don't have a website yet, but that is something I'm looking into. So what tips and advice do you have? Because again, I'm in 2 different scenarios. I could just build it myself through like Wix, or I could delegate it out and have it professionally made.
I've seen it go both ways.
Yeah.
You honestly just have to look at like, are you trying to get digital leads right away? Because if that's the case, then you're going to want to put a more professional product out there online.
Yeah.
Right? If you're trying to attract people on their phones, on their computers, on their tablet, whatever, like when they come across their website, you want it to look professionally done. But I've seen people do it both ways. I've got a lot of friends that are small business owners, mostly chiropractors. Some have built their own website. They've been just fine with it. Others like myself, I got it professionally done. But ultimately, like for me, once again, going back, like build everything to sell. It's not like I don't have the intention of selling my business anytime soon. As a matter of fact, we haven't said this yet. I got a 3.5-month-old daughter.
Nice.
And so, Brecken, in 10 years when you're listening to this, just know I'm trying to build something for you to join one day.
There we go.
But ultimately,
That's awesome.
like, no, you want to build something to be able to sell it.
Yeah.
And so for me to get a website done professionally right away, it's like I'm laying that groundwork so that everything is there. And I don't have to like trace back, like same thing with the branding. We don't have to go back and rebrand or anything like that. So the website, getting it professionally done to me was important. But you got to wage that war with yourself and find out what works best for you. Hobbies
outside of work. What do you do when you're not in the grind mode as a business owner?
Work out a lot.
There you go.
Currently training for a half marathon.
Nice.
Not half, full marathon. Did a half marathon last year. Full marathon. Got to start saying that right.
There you go.
That's going to be a grind. But I'm a big golfer, and then I just enjoy like small, easy like game nights with friends and family.
Yeah, for sure.
But just like peaceful, quiet nights with my wife and daughter, just hanging out and enjoying each other's company. We're big basketball fans, so
there
like tonight, Aftershocks, baby, gonna watch them hopefully win. This will be out well after that, so cheering for Aftershocks win tonight, which will hopefully be pretty cool.
Nice.
But yeah, big basketball fans.
Nice.
Golfing, being outside, just hanging out with friends and family. Easy.
Awesome. What are your future goals for Auxoma?
It's a secret. It's not really a secret. I have a very unique vision.
Okay.
And where I want to take my practice. Yeah, I don't know if this is the place to share that vision.
Okay.
But like ultimately what I want is a place where I do want to grow beyond just like where HQ is, so to speak.
So you want to have multiple locations?
Multiple locations in a unique way. Like I think multiple locations, bigger isn't always better.
Yeah.
I will say that. And so like I'm starting off like I did it the riskier way. Like I got the big brick and mortar building from the very beginning, which like a lot of people start
inside of a gym or something like that.
100%.
Yeah.
And so my vision is that at least right now, like the expansion is actually like there's a certain flair and a certain intimacy and touch with branching out and actually in a smaller way. I've got my vision on what that can be, but like ultimately whenever an opportunity shows up, it's like we'll always entertain that, and like my business can become whatever, number one, like the market dictates and like what my relationships and how they grow, and as opportunities come up, it's just like you take that a day at a time. And as those things do come up, then it's like, man, we're either going to do that, but it's like I have my vision ultimately growing to multiple locations. And what we were talking about earlier, it being a place where people see their skills being able to be nurtured and developed and ultimately like blossom in, at least the structure of it. That was another reason, like no limitations, no insurance companies telling us what we got to do, nothing like that, so that the business can become exactly what it's supposed to.
Yeah. Would you have employees, or is that something you'd like to have?
I'm going to plug this right now if I may. I need to hire somebody before I get a divorce. Not literally, but like, just I am at the point where I am looking to hire.
A chiropractor?
Not a chiropractor, front desk admin staff.
I gotcha.
So ultimately, if anybody listening is interested in joining a startup practice and just having that conversation of what that looks like, I don't believe in building a position around somebody. I believe in building it for somebody. So I'm really just looking for help and seeing how I can build something that will cater towards somebody's skill set. But like ultimately, what I'm terrible at business wise is the marketing side of things. So if I can bring somebody in that can help me with some of the back end, like scheduling stuff and things like that, and then ultimately like work into a marketing job, if that sounds like something anybody's enticed by, AUXOMA on social media, Facebook and Instagram, or shoot the clinic a text 316-800-1117.
Would you have a chiropractor as an employee or chiropractor? Or sorry, employee or independent contractor? Like if you brought another contractor or a chiropractor in, what would that look like?
I mean, once again, like I'm open to any conversation. I have seen, like I have a friend that's an independent contractor right now, and he's struggling to know. And, you know, we just talk about like it's messy. He's like, I'm my own brand inside a different brand, and it's just confusing. And I don't think I would want that necessarily for my business. But if the opportunity came up and somebody was looking to start up, then I would at least have that conversation. But when it comes time to like grow as and bring in another chiropractor or bring in a physical therapist, something like that, I just want it to be a place where somebody knows that, you know, their skill set is going to be nurtured and developed, and they're going to be able to grow in that, like their talent as a physical therapist or chiropractor, and be compensated for it, man. Something we haven't talked about, like, you know, earlier you were like, chiropractors make a lot of money. That's the stigma. We're the lowest paid professional degree.
No way.
Wow. Which I think is, and it's very true.
Okay.
it's building something where like we can be compensated for what we are worth.
Gotcha.
And ultimately, like when my business is ready for that and it's time to bring somebody on, like I want them to be like, dang, like I am being very well taken care of here.
Yeah.
And that being the case. So that's financially taken care of and with their skill set. But yeah, lowest paid professional.
That's interesting because, you know, I have a dad of a kid that I train that's a chiropractor, and I'm pretty sure he makes tons of money.
Does he own his own practice?
Exactly. So I think maybe that's the only way to do it because, like, again, personal trainers, I think they're kind of looked at as not making a lot of money. But if you're running your own business and you're loaded with clients, you're probably making good money.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely that, but it's like my vision as a business owner isn't to become like filthy rich business-wise.
Yeah.
It's to grow something that I'm passionate about and that I think the market was missing.
For sure.
Ultimately doing it that way. And then so when people do join in, it's like
for sure
they're compensated for what they're worth.
Yes.
My mentor, Dr. Jordan, when I went out and started up my own practice, she was like, she straight up told me, she was like, you'll make more money working for me. Why would you want to go start your own thing? And I was like, I hear you, but because she experienced that. But I mean, ultimately it's like,
we probably didn't start our own businesses just to get filthy rich. It's also a fulfillment. It's rewarding for us to go to work every single day for ourselves. You 100%. Know,
like I said, I've been an entrepreneur since second grade. When I saw those Hershey bars, and I was like, man, I can flip those.
That's awesome. I made lemonade stands when I was a kid. So
that's awesome, man.
It's awesome. Awesome. Well, I guess you kind of gave a quick pitch, but where can we find out more about Auxoma?
Yeah, AUXOMA, Auxoma on Instagram and Facebook, auxoma.com. You can shoot me an email. I absolutely love having students in the clinic, shadowing, seeing how I do things. So justus at auxoma.com for an email, or you can call the clinic 316-800-1117. That felt very radio-y. But yeah, that was fun. Reach out if there is any interest in potentially joining up with the practice. That would be wonderful if anybody listening has interest in that. And then student shadowing, anything like that, just want to check it out. As I had just mentioned, those would be the easiest ways.
Awesome. Well, appreciate your time and being on the podcast.
It was an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to watching this thing grow and you grow professionally. You're an absolute dynamo in this field, and so I'm super grateful to have you in my circles.
Yes, appreciate it, man. Cool. All right, we'll thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.